Haddad Images of Montreal presents
a visit to the temple of
Abydos. Stairs lead from the forecourt to the upper second court. The second court overlooks a portico, which is the real and actual entrance to the temple and can be accessed by stairs in the form of a central slope. It has 12 square columns erected by Ramses II and covered with reliefs of him. With the god OSIRIS in this scene, with the goddess Isis giving him life. Behind the columns there is a wall constructed by Seti I and was modified by Ramses II as we see it now. On one part of the wall we can see Ramses II killing his enemies in front of the god AMUN. Also another relief shows Ramses II with the god Horus and his father the god OSIRIS. This relief shows the god Horus and the god KHNUM holding hands with Ramses II to show that they are satisfied of him. The construction of the first hypostyle hall was begun by Seti I and completed by his son Ramses II. It has 2 rows of 12 grouped papyrus columns crowned with papyrus buds. This sunk relief shows Ramses II with the goddess Seshat, goddess of architecture, mathematics, and surveying. Both are putting the boundary that limits the perimeter of the temple. The star above the head of the goddess is a palm tree. In another scene of consecration, we see the king Ramses II with the red crown of Lower Egypt purifying the temple by spreading it with natron. This was one of the duties of the king, and he is doing it in front of the god Horus. This sunk relief shows Ramses II standing up and purified by Horus and Tut by the water of the inundation of the Nile. This was done to strengthen the royal duties of the king. This scene is also sunk relief. It shows the god Horus and the god KHNUM holding hands with Ramses II, while the goddess Hathor doing the reverence in honor of the king. Now the king Ramses II is ready to meet the God to whom the temple was consecrated. We see him here offering to Osiris, and behind Osiris, Hathor and Horus. The second hypostyle hall was built by Seti I. It has 36 columns made of limestone and sandstone and decorated with raised reliefs of first quality. The columns are arranged in 3 rows, each of 12 columns, and give access to 7 passages which lead to the 7 chapels of the temple. The ground in this hall slopes gently upward, with a sudden rise before the 3rd row of columns, and the ceiling gets lower. This is to give mystery to the temple. In this raised relief, we see Seti I pouring libation and burning incense in the honor of Osiris and Horus. This is one of the perfect raised reliefs. The second hall leads to the 7 separate sanctuaries, dedicated to the deified Seti I, the god Ptah, the god Ra-Hurachti, the god Amun, the god Osiris, the goddess Isis, and the god Horus. The 7 sanctuaries have identical architecture and all are roofed. On the sanctuary walls are depictions of rituals associated with different festivals. The sanctuary of Amun is the largest. All the sanctuaries contained the god's bark and a stele placed in front of a false door. Except the one for Osiris, which had a real door, leads to a series of rooms dedicated to Osiris and located behind the 7 sanctuaries. It occupies all the length of the temple. The complex of Osiris includes 2 halls and 6 chapels, 3 on each side, dedicated to Osiris, Isis, and Horus. As was the rule, the sanctuaries were considered as holy of the holies and were closed off and only the pharaoh and the high priest of each god were allowed entry. In the corridor known as Gallery of the Kings, we find Abydos King's list, which shows Seti I and his elder son Ramses II offering to their predecessors. This list has 76 of kings and pharaohs' names. The names are in 2 rows of cartouches and in real chronological order. It starts from NARMER or Mina and the kings of the Old Kingdom, then the Middle Kingdom and the New Kingdom, and ends by Seti I and Ramses II. Except King AKHENATEN and King AMUN, whom were omitted from the list. Opposite the king's list, we see Seti I and his son lassoing a bull. The decoration of the whole of the sacred barques has been started by Seti I and terminated by Merenbita. We can tell the difference between the sacred boats by its fronts. Let's see, this is for Isis, and this is for KHNUM, and the king's city offering to KHNUM. This is for HORUS'S. This is HORUS'S.